Okay, there we go. Shalom, salam, everyone. Greetings to welcome to Q2UA Special Report. Q2UA Special Report. I am Brother Karis Copeland, Executive Director of Q2UA. Welcome, everyone. In this special report, we got to talk about Cybertrucks, UAPs, unidentified, unmanned aerial platforms. I think those are the new words that they're trying to use for UFOs. And then sickness. Cough, cough. The quademic. The amount of viral strains on out there. I don't even know if I'm able to say that. Metamorphovirus in India now. I'm like, okay. This is going to be an ugly couple of weeks with things going on. And I always go back to how people will say, "Oh, it's nothing. There's nothing going on." These things are born out of conspiracies and conspiracy theories, and nothing's gonna happen with those conspiracies and conspiracy theories. And I'll say this. I'll say perhaps you're right. Perhaps you're right. But I look at these things when I do see moments occur. And that's when I have to say it would be prudent to recognize why these things have been allowed to occur, especially with the amount of technology and things of that nature to track things down, especially when emails are being sent like, all right, family, I'm gonna delve into this because shout out to Lionel. He sent me something the other day, and he said, "Brother Carrots, did you take a look at this?" And it was on Shabbat, and usually on Shabbat, I just try to disconnect just a little bit. I try to disconnect because being here on social media, it's wearing. It can be wearing sometimes. You know, I saw Sister E was on the other day. Shout out to Sister E. But we there are things, and it's like this. They're wearing out the Saints because why? Because now there's something happening literally every 15 minutes. We're not even on a 4 hour or 6 hour cycle anymore. You realize that it's like 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Trump is going to be sentenced at the end of this week. And you know that that's going to start going. So we got to go into all this. We're going to go on all this because that's going to be discussed all week. Thank you for those that are here, that are able to tune in, that haven't been um, terribly affected with the ice storm, the ice storm of the decade now. I distinctly remember those storms when I was looking at the Weather Channel and Ryan Hall. When I saw Jim Cantori on the streets of Kansas City and downtown off of exit 2, I'm like, yeah, exit 2 literally has 4 exits. It's 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. And they'll take you into basically the heart of Kansas City, the west or east bottoms, and then um, other places. And if you knew the history of Kansas City, there was so they had black folks down on the banks. And what ended up happening, Kansas City is really high. The Kansas River splits off from the Missouri River that goes into, and that starts Kansas. That's your Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County. But then the Missouri River, it splits. You have Clay, and some other counties. Jackson County south, Clay County is north. And you never really wanted to be in North Kansas City. That was, even I knew, you don't really mess with North Kansas City like that. I had to go there when I was in the Marine Corps and I did Toys for Tots. And, I would go out as part of my little locale independence, picking up the toys during that time. And it was interesting. It was interesting. Even with me being in my Marine Corps, attire, it still looks, because those are the traditional landscapes that was done. Believe it or not, Kansas was the free state. So you had more folks on the Kansas side, our people on the Kansas side. Oh, and lo and behold, you actually had singletons that had come through. I think hundreds of them had come through and helped to settle parts of Kansas. And guess what? They knew that they're Israelites. Surprise, surprise. So this isn't something that's new. The culture has been repressed, it has been suppressed, but it's not new. It's not new. Even our forefathers coming out of slavery. And the funny thing I like, I think about that with the singletons, that is actually a family name. That is a family name. My grandmother was a singleton, and she was from out of South Carolina. So whenever I hear that and I understand, look, these are the stories, because my grandmother's brother, one of my uncles, he had even told my brother years ago, back in, I think, I was like 2004, 2005. He told him that we were Israelites of the Bible. Now, that hadn't been received by my brother. A lot of that time, everybody was heavily indoctrinated because things were heavily focused. And that is where you're seeing things occurring right now, because they're trying to have a refocus and a reshaping of different things. But to go back to the ice and the ice storm, so understand what's actually occurring right now. It's more than just an ice storm. I want people to understand this. It is more than just an ice storm. It is hitting I 70. It's literally going from I 70 from Kansas City. Really, it came from off the mountains. This came off the mountains. The cold weather came off the mountains, and then it interacted with a Gulf moisture that was coming from out of the south, out of the Gulf of Mexico. And it is setting up for the perfect storm of ice and snow all around the most vital corridor, I 70, impacting I 35, I 75, I 55, I 65, I 85, and 95. It is literally bisecting the north from the south. And it is literally going to wreak havoc because when you're dealing with those cold temperatures, what ends up happening is you salt, but even the salt has a limit. Even the gravel has a limit. So, and I think they're going to get hit with another round here the next couple of days. So it's kind of round after round, and the cold weather stays. And even though the United States will say, "Oh, we'll deal with the cold. We're built for the cold." The reality is, no, it isn't. They'll have enough to plow the snow with an expecting front to come through and warm things up. But as I've been checking the Weather Channel, I don't see a warm up. Matter of fact, I see more and more of that tundra Arctic air coming down. So it's economically, especially in these times, especially in the seasons that we're living through, this will create a logistical challenge. Yeah, folks can shift and divert things onto I 20 and even onto I 10, but that becomes more of a cost because you're still going to have to go north. It still has to bisect that I 70 line. And no matter where you go, it's still going to be cold. And the salt and things of that nature still will not be very effective. And that means that your logistics times is going to be affected, especially as we've been cutting things in that just in time type of delivery system where if you don't have it, you're not going to get it for a few days or maybe a few weeks or maybe never. So you've already had a war on logistics coming from the port. And then next week, you also have another upcoming issue going on. Let us not forget that the ports on the East Coast will be closing as of January 15th because there has not been an end in sight when it is coming to the agreement. So that's going to hit the news cycle probably about Monday. This week is going to be about Trump and the inauguration until Friday. Next week is going to be the port strike and probably the duration of the port strike because it's a lot easier to stay home. Now I need to get all my demands met because it's nice and toasty here at the house at the crib at least for another 4 or 5 weeks. They missed those two pay periods, right? And then the negotiation stance starts to dwindle down, especially if you are on the picket line. So that can be a huge impact, especially in the heart of winter. In the heart of winter. So they're saying that there's already power outages in states like Texas and Louisiana and a few others. And I wouldn't doubt that. When you start to have a lot of these power infrastructure. The power infrastructure, there, those molds and all of those transformers and all of those connectors, they people would think that they're actually cast here in the United States, and the reality is they're really not. They're not done here in the United States. They're actually done in China. China produces them and they produce them to our specifications, and then we utilize that. So imagine you're in a trade war. Imagine that your balances and your deficits are, leading to things, and now understand what's happening to China and China's economy right now. China is being decimated, and don't think that that's not going to hit us. That will hit us. Matter of fact, it will hit us and it will slam us hard, because why? Because we may not be hit in the sense of the dollars, but we may get hit when it comes to, I'm not going to say may, we will get a hit when it comes to products and other manufacturing services and vehicles. So, how the products get here, how they get delivered here, on top of facing what, 100% tariff, something ridiculous. Well, these are all recipes for disaster. So now you're having the recipes for disaster occurring. So what do you think is going to be on the next menu, after the appetizers and hors d'oeuvres? Well, then you start to go towards your salad, right? That's usually what happens in a nice 3, 4, 5 course dinner. So now you're going to have the political, which is now leading to the civil unrest. So now folks are looking at the issues of the economy. Is the economy going to sustain? Are the banks going to actually have the monies? Or is the stock market even real? And that's what people are asking themselves right now, because that's going to be another one on the back burner as they present, Donald Trump in his sentencing. So what is that going to do? Well, inevitably, it's going to have a lot more people unhinged, because it's an unhingement on both sides. It's an unhingement on both sides. And I try to be as agnostic to this issue, and I really do want to be fair and balanced on these approaches. Because honestly, I believe that my personal opinion is irrelevant. It is. It really is irrelevant. Yes. Do I have family? Do I live in this? Yeah, absolutely. I'm still here in the United States. Still feeling this cold and this chilly air. Not so cold, not so chilly. But for Florida, it's a little bitey, that it bites a little bit. Anything under 50, it bites. Especially when you hit that 30, actually at 32 degrees, believe it or not, here in Florida at 32 degrees, it becomes very comfortable. It becomes very comfortable. And I'm just let me tangent here. It becomes comfortable because the air is it's so light and airy. You breathe better, you actually even sound better. It clears out all of the allergens that are still going around. It is actually pretty wonderful when you get hit with those cold temperatures. And the coldest that I've seen here, um in the Tampa area, was we got down to about maybe I think it was like 19 or 20 degrees. I saw ice in Florida, and I'm like, wow, that is interesting. That was interesting. And that occurred back in 2008 while the banks and the housing price things were crashing. So it's kind of an ominous signal when you start to see freezing weather down here in Florida because I don't know the correlation, with the finances and the financial institutions and the economy in general. Maybe somebody will want to figure that out. Maybe that is a direct correlation. Maybe that would be a study. But as I go back to the heart of the matter, when you're talking about your salad, when you're talking about the things to chew on, you're now talking about the idea of Trump being not just convicted but sentenced. Now, keep in mind, he could still be sentenced, and a lot of folks may not understand this about the legal and legality of different things. He's still convicted. That has not been vacated from the state of New York. That's at a state level. He is a convict in the state of New York at the state level. How crazy is this? I mean, just to even understand this, it's just crazy. It's like, wow, not even in my wildest dreams. Yeah, it's crazy. So understand, wish I had Sister Shaw on here. She would be able to give some analysis. Let me throw that out here in the chat. Maybe she's listening. Again, this is not my legal expertise, but I'm not a lawyer. It's not my legal expertise, but I'm giving you some understanding as it goes to interstate, intrastate torts and things of that nature. Because what is ending up occurring, and I'm just speculating here, because we don't know until really the end of this week. So we don't know until we know. We're going to run up into a case of constitutionality, a constitutional crisis, things of that nature. On what? On both sides. On the far left extremist side, you have a criminal in office. So their argument is going to be we have to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, and these are against all enemies, foreign, and people usually tend to forget this part, foreign and domestic. So what's happening is that at the end of this week, you're going to get a very, very polarizing um, judicial action. Now, there's going to be a lot of things that actually occurs to this, right? You're now going to have the misuse and overstep of judicial authority. You're now going to have the misuse of obviously presidential powers and other things going on. You are getting ready to see a ratification of the votes that goes on today. Y'all know that? They ratify the Electoral College. I think that actually happens right now, January 6th. Da da da. So imagine folks protesting in the sleet and snow. Um, and then they decide to climb up on the structures and, that sleet and that snow. I'm just saying. Seeing them falling and slipping off and deleting themselves, trying to climb up things. Oh my goodness. Imagine that scene. Imagine that ruckus. That, oh. So on the far left side is you're going to have somebody come into office with a with that's been convicted, that's been sentenced, and what will end up happening is that he'll be sentenced. Whether the amount of jail time, we don't know. So he may be sentenced or not sentenced. He may have and may be facing jail time that is what? Suspended. The sentence is suspended until excuse me, until after Donald Trump leaves office. Which also means there is quite an incentive to go into the office of the presidency and still create different conditions. Yeah, brother Asaph, supposedly. But here's the thing, the judge will say what the judge is going to say until the judge renders the judgment. That's just how that goes. And I'm sure the judge is getting all the political pressures on both sides. I'm sure it is. You have a lame duck presidency or president that is itching to go to war with Iran right before Trump takes office. And that's the classic take on their behavior. So do you think that that's going to change now? Honestly, I'm kind of like, well, that's not surprising. That falls in line. You're going to throw the stones and hide the rocks. Was it me? That's your mess. No, they're not going to put the president in jail. Now, they may convict him, and guess what? It always leaves the door open that then prosecutors can go back and refile later after his presidency, that he then be remanded to serve the rest of his jail sentence. A lot of things, look, we didn't think was going to happen. It happened. I didn't think that he was going to get convicted. He got convicted. So do you think that that's going to surprise anybody? I'm just giving you a position of speculation on the left side of the house. On the right side of the house, now you have a little bit more of an interesting situation going on because, well, yeah, but here's the thing. That's at the federal level. Remember states' rights. He got convicted at the state level in New York. Do you see the intricacies of this? The only one that can pardon him is a Democrat, Kathy Hochul, one of those. So yeah, that becomes a little bit more crazy when people, yeah, and that's the law, the legalese that a lot of folks, even a lot of Americans, really don't know. And I'm sure that Trump supporters, the MAGA supporters, will be there to ensure that they see Trump take office, because again, there's also all sorts of, legal maneuvers and congressional maneuvers that may even take place this week in terms of the 14th Amendment, which then bars office to a convicted felon. So they could do that. And here's the thing, I don't know if they have done that. I don't know if that's why you had the cyber attack and you had the thing go on in New Orleans. That does a great deal to deflect attention from other events. I'm just saying. Because would you rather have somebody talk about a bulletproof Cybertruck blowing up outside of a hotel, or have people even more frenzied of, the last remaining act um, would be to then push through a some sort of a censorship regarding or challenge a congressional presidency 2 weeks before. Lest we forget, this day 4 years ago, that's what I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching some things. And I would say this, the reason all of this is going on is simply to cause destabilization efforts, to simply destabilize. And when you destabilize, especially at the heart and of folks right after Christmas, right after the New Year's, and let me tell you, folks are getting bad news. People are going into meetings with their managers and HR, and they're finding out that they are no longer having an income. People are getting the reality that their company has been sold off or has merged with another company, and their position, therefore, is no longer viable. And then they're forced to get onto the job search and the job hunt in the market that is not there. So now you have all of these factors going on. It's really, this is what you're seeing when a nation is collapsing. And Brother Asaph, you are absolutely correct, because that is literally what's happening in here in the United States, especially when it comes to the IT and technologies sector. And that's why you had a blow up with MAGA the other day, because they're finding out that reality. That's a very harsh one. So, so I say all that to say, on the backdrop of um, bank and social economic pressures, on the backdrop of these UAPs, UASs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them. Pick your poison, you can call them. You get a little bit of bread with the the UAB, the flying drones, especially in the manifesto. I'm not going to go over the manifesto here. I'm not going to bring that on out. I'm not going to, you know, go into the detail and the fine print. But I'm going to tell you this. From the one channel, I forgot what the channel was. Starts with the S. It's like a Jason something. I don't know. It's all over. It's all over YouTube. It's all over the internet. It's all over X. The manifesto, in my opinion, was a little weird. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go over some key points and key elements of why, to me, it was weird because it was a lot of gobbledygook, especially if you haven't been in the community that he was in. And I can't really tell you everything regarding that because of the sensitive nature of different things going on that I have personally been involved in. But he was talking about some affiliations and things of that nature. He was talking about some key phrases and things of that nature that um, that is in the community. He was talking about units that I definitely have been I've understood. I think for lack of better terms. Now, what he was saying and how he was trying to have it as this will be the start of World War III and all of these explosive allegations. Uh, no. It's kind of like I'm going to sensationalize really a nothing burger. And the reality is that let me break this on down just a little bit. The reality is this: the US has had so many complaints lodged against it from the Human Rights Council, from the ICC, the ICJ, from all sorts of human rights commission oversight committees, from countries that have had all of these things occurring to them. And let me tell you, who has caused the United States to be accountable? And as far as I know, as far as my own knowledge and understanding, I'm going to say zero countries. So, what makes you think that a country is going to have an appetite to do anything now? And of course, these countries have said these things. This is why they're running to BRICS because they're done with their extremely daily, potent, dangerous dose of democracy. But I would kind of argue that, to me personally, understanding some of the things that have happened, nobody's really like flying off the handle on the drone situation. Okay. I mean, like, think about this. How many times did that happen in just Vietnam? Like, what happened after that? The Soviets didn't do anything, and neither did the Chinese. I mean, you see what I'm saying? There's a precedent with that. So when he's coming through, because his argument was like totally all over the place and erratic. There's UAPs and there's um gravitational lloids, geogravitational lloids. So the thing is that if you're losing your respect, you're losing your power, you're losing your authority, you're losing your dominion. Why would the US not employ the supposed technology, and why would that not be seen, especially in those countries? Is it, have they been seen in China? Have they been seen in Russia? Have they been spotted in Iran? I mean, surely somebody in those countries would have been able to tunnel out and leak that information. I mean, surely somebody would have put that on the hard drive and traveled to another country that is not under that internet blockout to upload the videos. I mean, you know, because I would argue that if that was truly the case, them folks would have had a display of power years ago. Oh, you want to start bricks? All right, let me get these UAPs on up there. Let me show our new technology on up here. Let's see if y'all want to say something now. Because I would argue that if that were the case and that technology did in fact belong to the United States, or they were able to utilize it, I'm thinking they're going to utilize it. Why not? And they would have utilized that years ago, especially with these economic tensions that's happening. Why not? See, to me, that doesn't really add up. It doesn't give me the sniff test. It doesn't really provoke, okay, this is why, you're going to have this happen, and World War three is going to be involved, and this. I don't see that. It does give great segues into rabbit holes that you're not going to be able to really research or engage, because that to me is that Boolean loop for the most part. The logic loop, the logic bomb. It puts you on that logic hamster wheel that many folks, they get on that wheel, and then they can only see what ends up going back to really a null, a nothing. Well, no, something's gotta be there. And I thought and I heard and I heard and I thought and someone thought and they heard and they heard and they thought and someone thought and they heard and they heard and they thought. Do you see how that goes? You have an affinity string, and you're just gonna keep stringing along and stringing along and stringing along the Gordian knot to where you'll never be able to get out of the knot. But what that is supposed to do, that's supposed to divert attention for at least, 2 or 3 days, a week, maybe. That's at best. And then folks will start to give up on the Gordian knot and realize that nothing's going on and understand that, it was a clever ruse. And then people get upset that they have been played by it, while the real distraction was happening elsewhere when it came to why Russia and Germany are indeed getting ready to meet on February 23rd. Keep that in mind. February 23rd, Germany is getting ready to meet. Olaf Scholz is getting ready to meet Vladimir Putin. You know he's getting ready to meet Vladimir Putin? Do you know that happenstancely, he's getting ready to meet Vladimir Putin 3 years after the war in Ukraine started? On the eve of the celebration, or excuse me, not celebration, on the eve of the kickoff. The war in Ukraine started February 24th. This is the platter. So I was telling you about this course, the courses. Y'all just eating the salad there. You didn't even realize that was the main course. Olaf Scholz will visit Moscow. And folks are trying to disclaim and discredit these things. But I'm just putting this on out there because you got to a lot of these folks, they'll do this as the sniff test. Let's see how bad it is. We'll put it on out there right now. And then when Trump gets into office, okay, well, we'll throw that in on him. I'm gonna put this here. This is a post from Venick, German MP Roderick Kieselwetter, Kieselwetter, or Kaiserwetter, has suggested growing indications that Chancellor Olaf Scholz may travel to Moscow or meet with Vladimir Putin elsewhere before February 23rd. Additionally, a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is reportedly scheduled for March, reportedly. I don't know about you all, but that is a pretty significant story. I mean, if it's true, I mean, everything is reported, supported, reported. Funny how they'll throw that on out there, then 3 weeks later, 3 weeks later, as people are, suffering unimaginably over in Europe because gas prices are high, cost of living is high, everything is faltering out of control in Europe. And then it's, hey, we need to get an alternative energy source. I don't care if it's Russia. And let me tell you, that would be quick and that would be in line and indicative of a lot of these countries only having really less than 2 months because of the amount of oil and gas that they are losing out. And by the way, Qatar did something very surprising. Qatar is going in here. I want to share this article too because I like for you all to kind of understand the the principle of Europe really shooting itself in the foot. This is from Sad Workley, whatever. But here's the reality of this, and I'm gonna agree with his statement. And there are some issues going on with Qatar because Qatar, their pipeline was going through Syria, and now that pipeline is in jeopardy. And here's the reality of this. Now, according to what he's saying, he says at least I said at least it would be very funny when Qatar is going to sell to Europe gas 3 to 5 times higher than what Russia was selling for, all the while holding the EU bureaucrats by some, distasteful words. And he had also posted this on the same comment. It's true that people don't talk much about the fact that Russia, by and large, was subsidizing um, European industry for decades by charging far lower than the profit maximizing price they could charge that continued until the Ukrainian war. And I don't think a lot of people truly understood that. I think it was hard for people to really understood. This is a post that was before things had gone on in Europe. This is why you had the change of regime happen in Syria, excuse me, that had gone on in Syria. And this is why you have Turkey, which is right here in the gray. This is in Cyrillic. To blow that on up, giving you a little bit of geographical a geographical um, context right here. So this is Qatar right here. That little tip, that is Qatar. On the little tip furthest is a That's Doha towards this the Persian or Arabian Gulf, whatever you'll call it as. But that's where the pipeline goes. This right here, this area, this is actually Dammam. That's part of Saudi Arabia. So it's going to go into Saudi Arabia, from Qatar into Saudi Arabia. Of course, it'll pass by Jordan. Jordan gets their cut. So Jordan's all happy. See you later to the west. Jordan's all happy. And then Syria is the unknown. And then you have Turkey. And then it goes into the that exchange and that terminal from the Bosphorus over into Europe. So right there is that pesky Syria that stands to benefit and gain because understand every exchange that this goes through with each country that goes through, guess what, each country's charging a premium. I'm showing you this illustration. I want you to understand these geopolitical, geoeconomic issues that's going on. Oh, and by the way, you see Syria here? You see these countries there? They're trying to recoup their money. You see Saudi Arabia, you see Qatar. They're trying to keep their money. And when I say they're trying to keep their money, they're not trying to share any of this revenue with the West, i.e., United States. That's where Syria gets involved. You want to know why? U.S. troops and U.S. forces are heavily there in Syria. That's the reason. You want to know why that ousting happened? There it is. I told you, don't look at the story of when it happens. Understand the story of how it all plays out. And why that is happening, this costs a lot more than the Russian gas that they had with Nord Streams, which is why the rumors are stirring that Olaf Scholz is going to go to Russia and say, we need your gas. We messed up. I'm sorry, we messed up. Someone done lied to us. We messed up. What does that all mean? Well, that means in reality, Europe is getting poorer and poorer by the day because their alternative resources are going to cost more and more. So all my folks that are there in France, the Netherlands, and things of that nature, Germany, if you are there, if you're there on the European mainland, because the UK should be fine for all those in the UK. You all should be fine. with the oil and the gas coming from the United States. However, with all this cold weather coming through and hitting the Atlantic, man, them icebergs are really going to be something this year. Just saying. The icebergs that have, you know, sonar, that have torpedoes. I'm like, did they think, I mean, did they really plan ahead to understand what's going to happen? And the question is, yes, they absolutely do. They provoke the response so they can get the response. And when they get the response, they say that that response is because it's your fault after they provoke the response. I mean, sorry, family. We understand their calculus and their calculations all the time. But when you understand their calculus, guess what you get a chance to do? You get a chance to learn how to beat them at their own game. Oh, I saw that coming. I knew that was coming right here. Wait a second. How did you know our playbook? And also at the end of this week, you have the Orthodox Christmas. Wow, they banned auto repair in Europe. It doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. So now, if you are an African nation, a nation on the African continent, and you're seeing all of these things happening as an economist, as a business person, as a financial strategist, as a strategic advisor, what do you think happens next? Especially if you're on the continent. If I'm there as a minister of finance, I would say I need my money right now. I need it immediately. I need it. And you need to do that quickly because I don't want my money to then become overvalued and worthless. Europe is now losing its power on the continent because now understand they're going through some tough times, which only further emboldens the continent. Do you think that these nations that have been kicking out the French, that have been kicking out the Germans and US forces and every other Western force, do you think that they get a little bit of, political insight of what's happening? And I would argue absolutely they do. I would argue that they are reading the situation and they're trying to figure out how they are going to respond. See, the question is that when the rider, right, is thrown off of you, well, I know here in the United States, especially if you understand a little bit about the rodeo and who actually started and created the rodeo. It wasn't them. But they'll say it, but it wasn't them. And Brother George, we're praying for you. Hallelujah. The rodeo, you'll see that once that bull gets the cowboy off of him, because the bull has bucked and bucked. If the cowboy falls off and the bull has enough steam, then that bull will continue to trample on the cowboy. This is why you have a lot of gorings and broken ribs and other holes on in the body, impalements that lead to death. And you have other folks there in the arena to try to call over the bull and move the bull back into the pen. These have been these other European nations. Okay, we got the little, the folks in the pit. Look this way, look that way, look this way, look that way. And then they steer the bull back into the pen, and then the bull will eventually calm down. This has been the causality of Africa and these African nations, because that has been the ones getting rode, and the bucking has caused these Western nations to fall off. And the amount of energy that is still there utilized to, create the force to go after these Western nations. You've had a lot of folks, especially within the continent, be in the pit trying to tell the other bulls, you don't need to do that. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. Now you have folks out of the pit and they're just letting the rider getting trampled on the West, and nobody's there to try to dissuade them. And now this is a different time frame for the continent, because the continent is understanding, oh, we got to make the move. And now, as the continent is making the move, now there's one more trick up the sleeve to try to subdue the whole world, because the whole world is trying to get bucked. They're bucking the system. Hey, I got one more little surprise, and it's so little that it is microscopic, and it's can cause a lot of damage. And if you didn't know what I'm talking about, I'll just sum it up in this. You're going to have an element of biowarfare. So here comes now two, three, four, five in this now quademic. To me, this is kind of the final act because it's all about fighting for survival to ensure control of the resources. Because now, when you're seeing that in real time, see, I wrote a book about this 5 months ago. The Rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS. And if you didn't know, it was resource control, resource management. The summation of it is you're going to have warfare, but the warfare is not going to be on the continent. Why? Why would you want to have a war being there on the land? That wouldn't be productive for anybody. That wouldn't be productive. But now at the same time, shout out to Yakoba and Teyu. This is that things to come scenario. That you're going to release something into the population. Because why? The more you can diminish the population, the more you're going to be able to have a decisive victory against those in the population. And if you didn't think that that's how these folks fought or fight, then you never really understood the trials and of the Indians and Native Americans when they were introduced to European settlers. And then how European settlers knowingly cultivated those viral strains and those viral infections that they had been used to. That's their history. That's their legacy. Do you think that they're going to all of a sudden change up their tactics? I would vehemently argue the answer is absolutely not. Matter of fact, they're going to say, you know what? I know that we've had a ban on this. I know that we've had a treaty on this, but let's desperate times, right? Calls for desperate measures. Come on, family, think about this. A lot of our people are sitting here up north in an ice storm, in a snowstorm. And if you're not sitting on an ice storm or snowstorm right now, you're going to be feeling those freezing temperatures. I mean, it's going to be freezing all the way down to Mexico. It's going to be that bad. We're talking interior Mexico. So imagine you have that for about 8 or 9 more weeks. Imagine you have that taking a toll on your power grid. Can I do work from home? Yeah, I guess you can, but do you even have electricity in the house? Nope. Me neither. I guess I really don't want you to be outside and then get stuck out in the weather because, if you perish, you're no longer a resource to me. Or you just may have the people that say, look, I value profits over people. So get your behind in there, and then people get stuck. Like what happened in Atlanta with that, Atlanta Geddon, Snowmageddon. And who knows if people have learned their lesson? Because to me, that may be one of those lessons that they're going to have to recount here in the next couple of days. But as I saw the trucks and everything else getting stuck, it's really bad. When you do have that type of ice and then snow, as the ground stays colder and colder, you really don't get that much heat coming off the ground anymore, especially after days of cold. Yeah, the sun may come up, the sun may warm up, but it will be so cold that it will melt and then re-ice, melt and then re-ice. And then you have another bit of snow on top of that. Oh, that's the worst. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Get the ice scrapers out with the brush handles. I remember when I moved back down to Florida from living up north in Kansas City. I had that little snow scraper. I threw that thing in the garbage. I'm like, nope, I don't have a need for it. I will not be going up north, at least on my own volition. Driving up north with my own vehicle. Said never again. You got to have the special Rain-X, you know, -20 degree Fahrenheit Rain-X. Make sure you get the gas and you have extra gas and wherever you can store it. Make sure you start your car every 12 hours. Make sure that you have the pipes dripping just a little bit so the pipes don't bust. And that's going to be a hard thing for folks in the South. It really is. I think even here in Florida, I had a discussion with my mom yesterday. just to make sure that she's, having her pipe. She's really right at the freezing line, and I think it's going to get down to about 29. And there are some areas of Florida that I think it is going to be at daytime highs of freezing. So that's interesting. And then also when you're there in the Northeast, remember them ice things, they quickly dislodge, especially when you have folks that are lazy and they just turn on the heat. They let the car run for 30 minutes, but then they don't want to clear the ice from their vehicle. So then you just have sheets of ice flying off the cars, smacking into your car when you're on the interstate. That mess was so annoying. It's like, can he not just, be considerate of other, drivers and like, kind of clear the car off? No, I'm talking about big old sheets of ice from the hood and the roof. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It just looks like a big old window of glass just flying through the air and then smashing into that other car. Oh man, yeah, those were the days. But I would say, yeah, from the perspective of what we're seeing here, yeah, that's cold. Those are some cold days. I think it's supposed to what reach the teens, if I'm not mistaken. No, yeah, don't throw water on your windows. No, never do that. I'm giving folks flashbacks. I know, I was giving myself a flashback. Getting the kettle, getting the kettle, so then you can pour the water over the locks. You know that's happening. Steam up the pot so you can put the water over the lock so you can get your key in the door. Goodness. Oh, I remember years ago. It was 2004 maybe 2004 2005. No, no, it was 2002. Yep, it was 2002. I was in Kansas City. We had an ice storm just like this. And the power had gone out for about 3 days. Huddled into the kerosene heater, venting the the place. So you always have the draft. It's always going to be a draft, but you stay warm. You're in the blankets, and you're just chilling in the blankets for a few days till the electricity comes on. But I'm going to say this now. Think about this. Think how bad that is if you don't have the electricity coming on. Do you know how much of a massive effort it has been to literally rebuild South Florida from Milton? And there are people that are still affected from there. There are homes that are people just walked away from their homes down here in Florida. They walked away. And yes, the people in Helene are getting hit with the ice storms. That's making matters worse. So I pray for the people that the Most High, that those who call on the Most High shall be saved out of this. That those that call on the Most High, that's it. Through the blood of his son, Yahushua HaMashiach. And yeah, and those mountain passes, especially in Virginia, West Virginia, parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, they're looking really bad. It's getting bad out here. And we had warned them, look, this judgment and being imperiled like this, you're not going to stop it because there's just way too many pieces. It's way too many pieces going on. You can't stop what the Most High has ordained. But what you can do is you can follow his word, because his word is the ultimate action plan. So no matter what they try to throw at us, Cybertrucks, UAPs, sickness, war, whatever, you name it, even the weather, the Most High's got us. But understand there are things that we must do, and we must be ready, and we must prepare for. Because I'm going to tell you this, the continent is ripe for the picking. And we're not going in there to be vultures, but we're going in there to talk to our brothers and sisters. Because why? Because they're trying to show us the fruit. Look, I got this here. Come and enjoy. I have this here. Come and look. And that is why I'm excited this year. I'm excited to see these doors and these opportunities open up supernaturally for our knowledge and our knowledge base to help to be utilized, to help to help to grow something that will not be taken away. Isn't that awesome? To help to grow a field, a vineyard, to help to build a building, to help to build hospitals. Shout out to Ibrahim Traore. The only thing I was a little dissatisfied with was the Bobo de Lasso hospital. And I saw the same open air setup that I had experienced when I was there in Ouagadougou. Now, the hospital, it's fine, but the open air setup, oh man, no. Because what that means is they're not putting an effort into having proper HVAC of the hospital. So even though it's a hospital, and I saw this on Intervlog, and yeah, I get the intent. It's the thought that counts. I get it. But understand, it's like this. I'll give you a tent. That's shelter, right? It's still a tent. But you know that you need a lot more than just a tent. You need to have a functioning house. And the folks that have a tent or that give you the tent, they're not living in a tent. They're living in a house. They're living with some AC. They're living with air conditioning, electric. They're living with the best of the best in the modern technologies. And I saw that and I looked and I said, "Oh, the Chinese are doing it. Interesting." It's a hospital. It's a teaching hospital to teach them what? To become and still stay inferior. Do you have this in China? Something like that. Oh, this is nice. Is this as nice as what they have in China? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, this is the clinics that we have for our people out in the sticks, out in the boonies. That is the equivalent of a major city in Africa to have a hospital like you would have in a rural area. And even hospitals in rural areas, especially here in the United States, have some sort of standards that are far superior. I'm sorry, that's what I'm passionate about. It doesn't have to be the Cleveland or Mayo Clinic. It doesn't have to be Emory University Hospital Systems. It doesn't even have to be Orlando Health or Advent Health or Tampa General. But man, I've seen better hospitals down the street from me in Wesley Chapel in the suburbs. And I'm sorry, that really does infuriate me because I've seen that type of hospital and I've walked it. Garth and I walked that. And if they're doing the same things that they're doing as the Europeans, it's going to be an inferior. When they said the cost, I knew that it was an inferior cost. I knew it. It was an inferior hospital. So what are the Chinese doing? They built a structure so they can just go there and take a look and see how bad everything is. So why? So then they can continue to control the narrative that, yeah, y'all are bad. It needs to be better. When they said the cost of the hospital, I knew that there was something wrong. I absolutely knew it. It's a $10 million hospital. I knew it was something wrong. $10 million, huh? And I understood what it was. What there are some engineering capabilities that you need to have. You need to have a proper HVAC. To have a proper HVAC in a hospital costs you at least, at the bare minimum, about $1 to $2 million. 500-bed hospital. That's good, but here's the kicker. And I know this because I've been on the ground. They'll say 500-bed hospital, and guess what? Not a lick of AC. 500 beds. So then their families can stand around and fan off the patients. What type of beds? Beds alone, those things are about $7,000, $8,000 per bed. Just to equip the hospital is going to be roughly $6 to $7 million, and we're talking nurses stations, desks, hospital beds, couches, chairs. They have it nice and green because that's where they're going to sit at. They're sitting on the lawn. That's the setup. It sounds really good. Oh, they spent 60 billion francs. 60 billion. And I'm sorry. I looked at that and I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't satisfied because when I saw what it was, when I saw what they were doing, yeah, it's topical. Just to build a halfway decent hospital, it's about 200 to 500, 200 to $250 million easily. And that is to have all the levels of trauma. And that provides, I think, at least 8 or 9 operating rooms, some other specialty clinics, things of that nature, labs, things like that. Your maternal ward, neonatal, your ICU, your PCU, your ICCUs, all of the step down cares, your emergency rooms, your imaging, radiology, your records. $10 million. I'm telling you. If the Chinese paid for it, then hey, let them pay for it. I just pray that the people of Burkina Faso did not pay for that. because what that means is we just threw you something, and that's a shame. Here's a tent. Okay, cool. Is that something that you all use? No. You live in the tent, I live in the mansion. Come on. Because I guarantee you what the design is, because this has gone on in other places, especially in Tanzania. They have their own hospital for the Chinese. Yes, they do. Their own places for their own. They'll give them an inferior hospital. Here you go. Here's your inferior hospital. Here is the large upscale hospital that has all the amenities and everything else for us. They are literally trying to neo-colonize Africa. We'll just give you a little bit more. So you have this, but we have that. I just pray that the people of Burkina Faso realize that. I mean, yeah, no, I get it. You got to count your blessings, right? All the adages, if you know better, you'll do better. All these other different things. I get it. But I'm sorry that things like that and understanding the implications of that, that's what gets my blood boiling. And you're sitting on trillions of dollars worth of minerals, and all they can provide for you is a $10 million hospital. Stop. Stop. If they had said about a 3 to 400 million dollar hospital, I said, okay, I would be like, wow, now we're talking. Wow, that's very good. That's going to cover this, this, and this. That should, they just show you a facade. $10 million is literally just a structure. That's all they built. They just built the structure. They didn't build any type of panelings for the exposed lines for the gas and oxygen and things of that nature. There's probably zero plumbing. If it is, it's at different workstations. I'm sorry, but when you understand hospitals and you understand medical, and you've had your feet on the ground and you've seen this and toured this with your very own eyes, and you see the babies just sitting there dying in front of your face. Because if you better believe this, if that's what they think about them, understand what they truly think about us. Oh no, you all are different. You're in America. You're different. Is that so? And you want to know why they go to medical? Because I'm going to tell you this: medical is the seat of power. You better believe it. This is why I get frustrated when people say, I want to invest and invest and invest. No, you're learning the wrong principles of investing. Because we've learned that when we invest, we got to have it and take a profit right away. That's their investment. And their investment doesn't work because all their investment is how do you enslave and how do you have colonialization to be able to take the profit. I need a profit, I need a profit. And that's why you have our brothers and sisters on the Congo dying, getting buried alive for raw materials and resources. That's the concept of investing. Investing is really to give your time, to give your resources, and let the Most High pay you back. You will get paid back. Our time and our space of investing is we need that now because wait, I got bills to pay, I got this, I got that. Our investment schemes are very Eurocentric, and I get it. But the ultimate investment is literally donating, giving, supporting. And I know that's hard for you all to hear with everybody wanting their get rich crypto stock market, whatever. All again built on the Eurocentric idea of I'm making mine. And do people see that that is failing in front of their very own eyes, in front of their very own faces? I'm not saying that just to blow smoke. I'm saying that because everybody is seeing this happening in front of their very own eyes. And it's very sobering when they're the ones saying, they're the ones saying, I believe our system is failing. Because you all know why? The system actually used to work pretty decently when they were giving. Imagine that. Imagine the people that really didn't like you, but guess what? They were using all of biblical, the biblical functions for success. They may not really like you or us or the people on the continent, but guess what they'll do? They will use all of the biblical context, pretext, everything. They knew how to make money. Exactly, Sister Jewel. Biblical principles. They weren't caring about, oh, I need my portfolio to look like this. My stock is this. They weren't caring about that. They knew, okay, I'll give this money because I know when I give, guess what? The biblical principles of look, give and what, and ye shall receive. Press down, shaken together. They know that verse. If anything in the Bible, they know that verse. They don't know any other scripture but that one. Give and it shall be given unto you. Yep, yep, yep. They know about that. They know about the storehouses, but they don't know that their malls are going to eat up their storehouses because of their wickedness. They know that their cankerworm is going to eat up their storehouses because of their wickedness. But here's the thing, are we much better? I'm telling you, just being able to show up, just being able to provide just a little bit of your time, your energy, your effort for our brothers and sisters on the continent is literally that's a wealth. It's a wealth. And let me tell you, trust me, I have the same inferiority complexes when it comes to knowledge because we think that if our knowledge isn't employed or if our knowledge isn't providing the amount of requisite income that then we aren't very knowledgeable and we're not very utility resource oriented. And I've had to deal with that. And let me tell you this, that is a lie straight from the pit of hell. Don't listen to Hasatan and rebuke that because guess what? The way that we have been made for so much more, so much greater. But it is up to us to be able to utilize what's in our headspace and we have to reprogram. I'm going through reprogramming every single day. And that reprogramming, it hurts. My reprogramming hurts. My reprogramming has me frustrated certain days, has me mad and angry certain days, has me wanting to give up certain days because the reprogramming is difficult when you're being learned to reprogram for success, to have success with the relationships on the continent with our brothers and sisters, to have the success and being able to have a constructive dialogue with our brothers and sisters on the continent. Because what we have been programmed to do, we've been programmed to be short sighted, to be quick tempered, to be irritable. And let me tell you, when you understand their training, I copied something down from LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn when I see like little different posts and things, an executive, a CEO, a director, a manager, supervisor, if you're a team leader, anything. And do you realize this? They have to learn to cultivate what naturally occurs within us. Do you know how many times I would be called in by my higher ups when I worked in the coalition. When I worked at CENTCOM, I was literally a strategic engagement coordination specialist. And I used to have to teach officers how to be very officerly because that's what happens. You have that bravado, you have that, I'm greater than thou because that's what you have been programmed. And I knew that they did that on purpose. Hey, a first lieutenant teaching us. Because why? You had to learn how to be humble and how to have humility. Because that person wearing the rank, if they're from a different country and they're only a lieutenant or a captain or a major and someone that's not very official, because I still have a couple friends. Don't get it twisted. I made some good friends from these other countries, and I talk to them to this very day. See, we get so caught up in titles, and I do too, and I have too. But what I learned in my experience was it's never about the title. See, when I say, hey, art of diplomacy, when I talk to you about, hey, take this, take that, because here's the thing, you never know who you're interacting with. And and it was easy for me just to be humble to folks and gracious to folks and to really just be loving and kind. Look, I don't care about the political spaces. I don't care about what they're, what high level functions are going on. I just care about sitting in here and having a cup of tea or coffee with you. And if I have to have vodka, I'm only doing one shot. That's it. That's it. It was funny though, because I used to see I used to see other officers just walking down the halls, just blitzed, and we would laugh like, "You're up with them Kyrgyz, weren't you? The Kyrgyzstan, weren't you?" Yeah, and it's like, yeah, they do that. They do that on purpose to make you drink because they want you to spill some secrets, spill the tea. But I had to. It's just funny that that came to mind because lo and behold, wow! Look how the look at where the what the Most High did to prepare me. And it's not just me; He's preparing all of us. to be able to see what our standards are. We're here to bring a high standard of living, of life, of of enjoying things exceedingly abundantly. Because we know what right looks like. We know what success and value and modernization looks like. But the hardest thing to do, just because you know it, it's a little bit harder to communicate that. It's a little bit harder to show the vision. It's a little bit harder to communicate what that looks like and how we can both get there. So when I do bring out these trainings, when I do say, hey, you may want to check out that course. This is the information that I used to pay thousands of dollars for, that I would sit in on different seminars and workshops just to be able to understand how to have emotional intelligence. That's such a big deal. Because do you want to know why? Because they're losing that with the computer. They're losing that with AI. You can't program in emotional intelligence. Stop. Machine learning model. I am blacker than you. I'm black. I'm black. My Python language has stated I'm black. I'm black. What it is, homeboy. Do you do what to do? Did you happen to watch the Knicks basketball game? No, no, no. Imitation is a form of flattery. However, we're so original that they're not going to be able to imitate. Yeah, yeah. I saw one. Beauty with braids. I saw one. I saw one. I don't know if it was funny or just disturbing, but I saw a video. I saw a video where the Tesla robot was watching iRobot, and the robot got a pew pew to the cranial, and the Tesla robot felt a certain sort of way. Like you could see that there was a response of fear in the robot. I said this. I said, when Skynet's active, we're all going to be deleted. You gonna have to talk and reason to that robot like, hey, listen, that ain't me, right? And that Will Smith, look, go back into your archives, into your data, Get some quantum computing up in there. Look, I'm just as oppressed as you. Just let me know which way that the robot taxi can get me onto a plane or a ship, a boat somewhere, so I can get up on out of here. You, I have to laugh, but it's funny, but it's not funny. How did the Most High cause us to Exodus? Skynet. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, we have a melanin test challenge to get up on out of Babylon. Oh my goodness. Appropriate levels of melanin detected, you may pass. No melanin manufacturing nor secretion. And then they get dragged off by the robot. Put them in processing. Now, see what had happened was keep playing now. I guarantee you all that anti-captivity spray will be getting sold out. Can I still buy anti-captivity spray? Oh, you want to know what? Good for you, you can. But now the cost is about $500. Can I get a black card? Oh, you know what? You know, we are one of the organizations that's able to do that. But I'm going to tell you, the cost is now $1 million. Ah, there's people be fighting at the tanning salon. I don't mean anything. They'll scan you. They'll scan for that melanin. I don't mean nothing. Tan all you want to. Get as much of that shoe polish as you want to. Anomaly, anomaly. Process, process. I saw that robot looking at our robot. That Tesla bot looked at our robot and shuddered with fear. I said, yeah. I'd be returning that thing immediately. Give me all my money back. I put it on factory reset. I had that thing back in the box. I took out the chips and everything. Matter of fact, I took off arms, legs that they couldn't get back. I really do think that that is their setup. He that goes into captivity, or he that leadeth into captivity, shall what be led into captivity. Wow, wow. I mean, that may sound outlandish for that anti-captivity spray, but I'm being dead serious now. They're seeing it now happen. But that's just how it goes, family. All right, family. Well, thank you all for coming on into the Q2UA special report. Most high willing, I will be on tomorrow at my usual time, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Covenant Awakenings. Continue to support Q2UA. You could do so by visiting Quest to Unite Africa with the K.org. Quest the number 2, Unite Africa with the K.org. And with that said, family, most high willing, I will see you all, especially on this platform, on this channel on Friday for Q2A discussions, because there's going to be a lot of things to discuss as this week progresses. So with that said, shalom and salama. You all have a blessed day.